Benvingudes, benvinguts. Sempre passa el mateix quan s'ha de fer algun tipus de sessió en aquesta sala. Hi ha una dispersió quasi geogràfica de gent que se va posant cap al final i les fileres de davant queden sempre buides. Vos anim, no sé, que si me sentireu igual, tampoc no és una qüestió que millori el so o el que escolteu, no? No canviarà, no modularà massa, però bueno, sí que vos puc dir que des d'aquí baix un se sent millor quan té la gent més a prop, però bueno, ja si de cas, després, si vos he convençut, vos canviau i vos atracau una mica també aquí davant. A mi m'agradaria, en primer lloc, com he fet, donar-vos la benvinguda a totes i a tots. En segon lloc, donar la benvinguda a la gent que ha vingut especialment de fora per poder estar amb nosaltres aquests 2 días. Por tanto, muchísimas gracias a todos por haber aceptado la invitación de manera tan gentil y haberos acercado hasta este pequeño trocito de Mediterráneo. Thank you very much indeed, especially to Lidija and Carl, for coming here. I know that everyone has many things to do and many responsibilities and duties and all that stuff, but it's great to have you here. So thank you very much for accepting the invitation, and thank you very much for being here. El seminario que vamos a empezar es un seminario internacional y tengo que seros sincero, al principio pensamos en contratar un servicio para poder tener una traducción simultánea de las exposiciones, porque va a haber principalmente 2 exposiciones que son en inglés y pensamos pues contratar ese tipo de servicio, pero dadas las circunstancias no teníamos el dinero para hacerlo y luego también optamos porque bueno, creemos que es necesario que vayamos practicando inglés todo lo que podamos y más y bueno, aprovechemos esta oportunidad para ir practicando nuestro nivel de este idioma, ¿no? Por tanto, espero que no sea ninguna dificultad el que haya principalmente 2 exposiciones que sean en este idioma. Y os animo también a que cuando tengáis que hacerles preguntas a los ponentes se las hagáis en inglés, bueno, para seguir ir cogiendo confianza. Yo me paro aquí, os dejo en manos del doctor John Jordi Montaner, es el director del departamento que ha organizado todo este seminario. Nada, os va a dar un poco la bienvenida y en cuanto él acabe ya empezamos con las sesiones. Tal y como veis en el programa, la primera que vamos a tratar es la sesión de Lidija Billic-Zulle. I'm sorry if I do not pronounce your name or surname, but somehow, I don't know. All right. Pues sí, tendremos la primera sesión, luego tendremos un pequeño receso, unos minutitos, nos tomaremos un cafetito aquí arriba y luego seguiremos con una mesa redonda sobre temas referidos a las causas y factores asociados al plagio académico y concluiremos la primera sesión con una charla que vendrá a dar el doctor Santiago Cabanillas acerca de aspectos reglamentarios y jurídicos del plagio académico. Por tanto, como os digo, bienvenidos, estoy contento de veros a todos vosotros aquí y os dejo ya en manos del doctor Montaner. Muchas gracias.
Molt bé. Bon dia a tots, benvinguts. Sabeu que jo fa més estona que en Rubén, que he estat alumne i que he assistit a situacions com aquesta, però veig que en Rubén ja no se'n recorda el que feia quan era alumne, ho dic per això que vos atraquéssiu. Estau molt bé allà dalt, sobretot perquè les portes de darrere un pot sortir i entrar sense que se noti tant com per aquí per passadís. No, estan obertes perquè jo he entrat. És a dir, aquesta és una situació agradable de com ha de funcionar aquest seminari internacional. Jo, com a director del Departament de Pedagogia Aplicada i Psicologia de l'Educació, he dit que en el moment que el professor associat d'aquest departament no se n'ha recordat del nom perquè és un nom molt llarg. El Departament de Pedagogia Aplicada, que és la seu on el grup de recerca d'Educació i Ciutadania desenvolupa les seves tasques. Nosaltres, com a departament, i aquest grup de recerca en concret, tenim l'interès d'aprofundir en aquells temes educatius que tinguin un interès per la població d'aquesta comunitat autònoma. Però també volem anar més enllà d'aquesta comunitat autònoma. I un exemple de que volem anar més enllà és aquest seminari internacional. També voldríem tractar aquells temes que tinguin un interès social. I ens sembla que en aquest moment, a principis del segle XXI, quasi després d'haver passat una dècada d'aquest nou segle, és important estudiar i analitzar i saber com lluitar des de la pròpia universitat contra el plagi. El plagi ha existit sempre. Sempre hi ha hagut negres que han fet coses i sempre hi ha hagut alumnes i professors que s'han cregut més llestos que els altres, que han sabut copiar, plagiar les idees, els escrits, els treballs d'una persona que ja ho havia fet abans. La diferència actual és que la informàtica, que té molt bons serveis, que ens permet fer moltes coses interessants, que ens permet millorar les nostres feines, ens ha afegit aquest problema. Trobar un treball penjat a internet de qualsevol altre país, de la temàtica que nosaltres treballem, no és complicat. Inclús existeix el gran famós Rincón del Vago, però hi ha coses molt més complexes que se cerquen, que se troben i que s'utilitzen. Lluitar contra això no és per fastidiar els alumnes, és simplement per honestitat, és simplement perquè la universitat compleixi la seva tasca docent i la seva tasca investigadora. És interessant que sorgisquin noves idees i els que siguin alumnes estan aquí per aprendre i preparar-se per tenir aquestes noves idees i els que siguin professors per desenvolupar-les. Aquesta és la nostra tasca a la universitat i aquest és el nostre objectiu com a universitat. Jo no m'ho vull allargar més perquè sempre les presentacions són avorrides i molt més vist el programa que té aquest seminari i que segur que teniu més interès en sentir els ponents que en sentir-me a mi. Jo simplement agrair-vos la vostra presència, esperar que en aquest edifici, en el Guia en Xifra, en aquesta nostra universitat i sobretot dins el cor del nostre departament, vos sentigueu còmodes, pugueu fer una bona feina, que la disfruteu i que a més, com ha dit abans en Rubén, pugueu fer classes d'inglès gratuïtes. Això és un xollo absolut. Bé, sigueu tots benvinguts, agrair molt sincerament al doctor Jaume Sureda, investigador principal d'aquest grup de recerca, i a tot el seu equip que hagi organitzat aquest seminari, agrair al Ministeri d'Educació i Ciència la seva participació i, una vegada més, que vos sentigueu bé i que pugueu aprofitar aquest temps. Moltíssimes gràcies i bon dia.
Moltes gràcies, Joan Jordi. Si vos... Fins ara. Si vos pareix bé i no teniu impediment, començar amb les primeres sessions. I would like to introduce Lidija Billic-Zulle. You can come over if you want. Lidija... Yeah, you can sit there. Lidija is a lecturer at Rijeka, is it alright? Rijeka University in Croatia. She works in the Faculty of Medicine in the Department of Medical Informatics, which is something that maybe you could just explain us before starting. All right. Okay. And she has developed a huge amount of work on the issue of plagiarism. She has a quite important profile an international level on the issue. And by luck, the truth is, I met her through another person who works in this field, who's a professor in St. John's University in the United States, where actually you did your PhD there, did you?
Yeah, the part of the Miguel Roig, the professor, was my mentor and a member of the board when I was defending my PhD thesis. So I have to defend it in English. So prepare to defend your PhD thesis in English.
And she did. She has done since then a very important job also with Mladen Petrovitsky, who's another professor in the same faculty, and
my boss actually.
Her boss. And we invited her to have a talk about somehow, which is the situation of the plagiarism into an European level, into an European perspective. So I led you with her. You know, you have something like 1 hour and or something like that.
Okay, 1 hour or enough.
All right. So you make your presentation for 1 hour, 50 minutes, something like that, and then you'll have the chance to make her any question or suggestion or wondering that you might have. So I let you in Lidia's hands. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you, Ruben. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, students, I'm very privileged and honored to be invited in this university, thanks to Ruben and to our joint work. And I will give you a few words about plagiarism, the research model that we develop in our university, and the perspectives that we see in other European countries. I'm coming from Croatia. It's not far on the map, but it's very far because you have to go to Germany to reach Palma if you live in Croatia. First, so you have to fly, and then end on this beautiful island. So it's, I think that it's vice versa is much easier, so I invite you to go to Croatia. We have also very nice islands, very nice sea, beaches are spectacular, and also the woods, lakes, water flows, and also the cities which are very nice, and it's have this Austrian feeling when you are there. But we also
because we are the only ones that we see.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I didn't notice.
Os estaba enseñando unas fotos maravillosas, os lo juro, de Croacia.
Ruben will explain what is on the slides.
Pero esperad solo un momentito. Creedme que son muy bonitas, ¿eh? Solo nos dais un segundo y a ver si arreglan desfacen el entuerto. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Because I see that you are not thrilled with my photo.
Yeah! No, it doesn't.
Oh, it's okay.
Os prometo que están las fotos, ahora las veréis.
Shall I start it from the beginning with my speech? Okay. This is how my name is pronounced in the departments that I work for. And this is the map, as I said. It's how far it's from Rijeka to Palma. But you cannot fly following this line. You have to fly to Germany, as I said, or somewhere else. But these are the photos that I want to show you. And these are islands, and this is one of the famous beaches. Woods, lakes, waterfalls. We have many national parks. This is the capital of Croatia, Zagreb, and this is my home city, Rijeka, also near the sea. We have a big harbor, and we cannot reach the sea in the town as you can. I work at the Rijeka University School of Medicine, and this is our web pages. You can visit it if you want to learn Croatian also. And this is a nice university, the small one. And the department of our university is the Department of Medical Informatics. Actually, we teach medical informatics. Nobody knows actually what it is, neither do we. But we know. This is the principle of using the computer technology in medicine. As you know, in medicine today, it is very important to learn how to use computers. In many fields, how to use it for medical decision, how to use it for imaging, how to use it with the data managing, and in hospital information system, and all other stuffs which are connected with the medical part of the job and with the organizational part of the job. So we are all from the different part of the medicine. I'm actually a specialist in medical biochemistry, working in a big laboratory in a hospital. But at the university, we teach medical informatics, we teach statistics, and we teach the scientific methodology, the basic principle of scientific methodology. And that's how we come to struggle with the plagiarism as one part of academic misconduct or even scientific misconduct. These are the three of our research fellows, Ksenia, Vanya, and Martina. This is myself in my office, and this is our boss, Mladen Petrovečki. I have to put his picture a little bit higher than mine. But it is interesting that all of our PhD candidates actually research in their PhD research plagiarism on different levels, and using the computer technology to explain plagiarism, to fight against it, to deter students and the scientists from the plagiarism. We also work in a Croatian medical journal, which is an indexed journal in the field of general medicine, and our editorial board promoting the high standard of academic and scientific integrity and fighting against plagiarism and the other things that happened unfortunately in science, like fraud and fabrication, falsification of results. But today we are mainly talking about plagiarism. Among all different definitions of plagiarism, this is probably the simplest one. It is an appropriation of another's work, claiming it to be your own. And it is a theft, and it's against the basic principle of academy and the science. Nothing can justify plagiarism under any circumstances. In academic misconduct, we found many different things that students do, like plagiarism, cheating, frauds, cheating on the exams, and writing down the other people's name or something like that. Many studies shows that dishonest students are becoming dishonest experts. And after that, they're continuing to do the same thing if they are used to do that during their study. And they will probably do it more often than other people when they are experts. And if they are medical doctors, those things can cost human life. The computer technology actually introduced the new word in the plagiarism vocabulary. It's what is called cyber plagiarism, when it is very easy to plagiarize when everything is accessible and just copy and paste procedures do it for yourself. You don't need to write, to see in the paper and to write it again, just copy and paste. How students actually plagiarize and do the cyber plagiarism? I will not teach you that. You know that probably better than we are. But downloading a free research paper And ordering from commercial paper mill websites became very often procedure in some countries, especially US. And direct copying from an article from the web, because students thought if something, student scientists, I'm not blaming you as a student, please don't take any offense, but people actually think that what is on the web, it is free and it can be used and it belongs to everybody. It is an intellectual property, and if you want to write an essay or write your text with your own mind, you should not take it from the internet because somebody else put it there. Cutting and pasting from several sources become very popular method, because they think if I copy from the one article just a little, from the other more, from a third, fourth or something like that, that will be somehow my original paper. It is allowed to read, of course, and it is allowed to understand, and then in your own words to write an essay, not copy and paste from the other sources. Before the computer technology is developed, it was very hard to detect the plagiarists. It was mainly by chance, reported by a whistleblower, or if you recognize it when you're reading essays or the other articles. It was very difficult to prove because you have to compare and to think, is it plagiarism or just a paraphrasing? But computer technology, especially plagiarism detection software, make it very easier, and we say to our student, the web give it and the web shall take it away. Carl will talk about plagiarism detection software tomorrow, so I won't be explaining different techniques, but they're all based on text analysis, or there are some interesting procedures that can be used on students, not on scientists, that every 7th or every 10th word is deleted, and then students have to fill up the text. And it said if they fill up the text more than 70%, it will be probably the original work, and if they fill up less than 70%, they don't even recognize their work so good. So this is the GLAD procedure. We use word copy find software, which I will explain later. The other thing which is very, very important is attitudes toward plagiarism. Many universities in Europe, I think that you will hardly find one without the ethical code mentioning plagiarism as a misconduct. But it's very depending of cultural environment, and it's very culturally influenced. I will explain it later in my conclusions, that if the society tolerates plagiarism as a non-offensive act, the students and the pupils and even the scientists and experts will do it, and they were not expecting nothing bad to happen to them. And this is important, that the ethical codes, not just mentioning plagiarism as an offensive or forbidden act, but explaining what plagiarism is and explaining how to avoid it, and have clear guidelines how to write an essay, especially now in ICT age, using computer technology, internet, how to avoid plagiarism, which is made by, let's say, honest mistake. In order to study academic plagiarism in our university, because we study we're teaching statistics and we like numbers, and we try to measure the prevalence of plagiarism, not just within survey study, but to measure it quantitatively as you measured temperature or any other thing. And then we develop quite simple research model. Now I can say quite simple when the research is finished. At the beginning it was very tricky to organize it. And we try to prove the existence and establish the prevalence based on student essays. We want to determine how clear warning and the warning on penalty influence the rate of plagiarism. What needs to be done to deter students from plagiarism? How we were studying the attitudes of medical students over plagiarism and other different academic misconduct. And then we examined the general attitudes about intellectual property, which are very important when we are dealing with plagiarism. Our subjects were our students. The study was conducted from year 2000 to year, the experimental part from year 2002 to year 2005. And they were all second-year medical students in Rijeka University Medical School, and they are all attending medical informatics course. There were just a bit less than 300 of them. There are 63% women, and the main also in medicine you see that more than 60% are women doctors. So this is quite representative. They were age 21, few more and less, and the whole research were conducted during 3 academic years. There were no difference in number, sex, age, or any academic achievements between the student samples. They were quite similar. The study consisted of 3 parts. First, we were investigating the prevalence of plagiarism using plagiarism detection software on the essays. Then we investigated the attitudes towards 6 different scenarios of dishonest academic procedures and behavior. And we, at the end of the course, asked them to give us the general attitudes towards scientific integrity and intellectual property. The first one is the most interesting, I said, because we measured the prevalence of plagiarism. We give the students an assignment to write an essay which was not graded, and we say this is the part of the curriculum and it's mandatory, and you have to do it to write it down. You have to choose one of the 4 offered articles that we offered. 2 of them was in electronic format available from our web pages, and 2 of them were published in a hard copy journal. 2 of them, each from a group, let's say 1 electronic version and 1 hard copy, were more complex topics, and 2 of them were less complex topics. We want to see if there is a difference in plagiarism rate between electronic version or hard copy version, or how students choose less or more complex topics of for their essay. Additional sources were not prohibited, of course, and was not especially encouraged. And when we were giving the assignment, we gave the instructions on plagiarism. The first year of investigation, the first group of students were warned that the essays should be their original intellectual creation, and that they are expected to write it down from their own intellectual, from their own mind, not to copy it. The second year were broadly explained what the plagiarism was, and strictly warned that plagiarism was forbidden, and explained why the plagiarism is a bad thing to do and how to avoid it. And the third year, besides all of that, were additionally warned that essays would be checked by plagiarism detection software, and the perpetrators will be punished. We will deny them the right to go to the exam. And we used the CopyFind, the plagiarism detection software that is available for free. From the author is Louis Bloomfield from Virginia State University, who developed this little program for checking student essays. What is interesting, this program works for any language, that is written in Latin alphabet, and calculates the proportion of plagiarized text. It can be downloaded very easily, and it is very easy to use if you have the original source and if you have the the suspicious text. And it can also, you can put it like 200 student essays in the program, and they will all be checked simultaneously, and the result is given by the proportion of copied text. We use the 6-word rule to define the portion of plagiarized text. So we say, okay, we will not check every word, but if there is more than a 6 word in a row are the same as in the original text, as in template, we will count that as a plagiarism. We also allow imperfections when people change one word with a synonym or do some typewriting mistakes copying the text, and the program catches it, so you cannot get through with just changing a few words in a phrase. Then we ignore all signs or numbers, and the program cannot check the tables or pictures, just the text, so we removed the tables from the text. It was in the assignment. It was we told students that they need to write down an essay which is more than 250, but less than 2,000 words. So we don't want them to write down the big essays, and we don't want them to write down just a half a page. They have to read the source and then write down an essay that was limited. With a limited number of words. And we collected the different data, the percentage of copied text, which is calculated by plagiarism detection software, and the distribution of chosen article with respect to its availability, electronic or hard copy, and its complexity. We also, after the exam, divided students in 3 groups. Excellent students, which graded 5 in Croatian system, which means A, excellent, and very good. And as an average student, which that were graded good and adequate, C and D, and poor student that have failed the exam or didn't take exam at least for 1 year. Then we see if there is a difference between plagiarism rate among students depending on their academic achievement. And the result was that the proportion of plagiarized text, the average proportion described as median, is 7%, and 5th to 95th percentile is 0 to 84%. The winner was plagiarized 99% of the texts. Only 18% of students didn't plagiarize from the source article, and half of them plagiarized less than 10%. We took this cutoff of 10%. They are different, and then we can declare these essays as plagiarized. There are different data in different sources. Somebody takes the cutoff of 12%, the cutoff of 25%, even like 1/4. But we consider that in a student essays, 10% is enough to point that student actually plagiarized, not writing from their own mind. In scientific literature, there is a different issue because some parts of scientific articles are copied through the articles, and then when someone evaluating a scientific paper, is it plagiarized or not, we have to be aware that materials and methods can be similar as already published, or some phrases are very common. and in biomedical language, let's say in biomedical vocabulary. But I'm also against that copying from each other, even though for materials and methods. If you have the similar materials and methods, you can just put it on a reference list or cite it, not write it again and again and again, just spending the publishing space, or giving the reader something that average reader will skip off and read the results and the discussion, which is the main part. So we have like around 35% of students that plagiarize somewhere from 0 to 10%. If I show it as in distribution, we'll see that among our students, half of them plagiarized until 10% and other half plagiarized more than 10%, and we have even those who plagiarized, let's say, more than 90 or more than 80%. And it means that if they have essays about 300 words, it means that just few words were not plagiarized. And when I first showed these results, my dean told me, you don't need to point out on our students as bad ones. I don't think that our students are better or worse than any other students, it's just our situation. So we have to be aware of the plagiarism rate, and then we can fight it, and then we can move the one step further in our battle against plagiarism. There were no difference between female and male. There were expectations that females will be more honest. I don't know why. Those expectations that the scientists are more honest than any other people are wrong. Because scientists or women, they are cheating their wives, husbands, they're cheating on taxes, they go through the red lights in the same rate as a man. So this is something that proves our thesis that will be equal. It was very strange, but we find out that there was no difference between hard copy and electronic format of source article. We strongly expected that the electronic version will be more plagiarized than the hard copy version. But then we realized if somebody wants to plagiarize, he or she will plagiarize no matter if it is from the electronic copy or from the hard copy. You have also need to know that in those years it was not common that every student is familiar with the computer technology as it is today. So you will see further that the electronic version became more popular, but the plagiarism rate was no difference. And there were no difference between a simpler and more complex topic of source, because we were expecting that perhaps the students who are not very committed to their learning will choose the simpler topic and then plagiarize more, but it didn't happen. When you see this result, you will see what is an efficient way to deter student from plagiarism. As you see, the first year were plagiarized, average rate of plagiarism was 17%. And we just warned them to write down their original thoughts. And the second year, it was even more when we explained what the plagiarism is, why it is wrong, how to avoid it. And they plagiarized like 21% average. There is no difference between these 2 years. The warning is not enough. But look at those guys. At the third year, when we said we are going to check your essays with the plagiarism detection software and you will be punished if you plagiarize, they plagiarized less than 2% in average. So unfortunately, this clear warning on the objective method that we are going to check their essays and the penalty gives results. But you also have these outliers say that despite the warning, they were plagiarized more than 50% of their essays. So there will be always somebody who tried to plagiarize even more than it is expected. Academic achievement overall does not influence the rate of plagiarism. But this group of excellent students, grade 8 and B, are obviously less in plagiarism. There is a less plagiarism rate in their essays. So we decided to exclude the last year. And because the last year were significantly lower in plagiarism, the last group of students were significantly lower in plagiarism rate because of the warning of punishment. And then we have this situation that there is a significant difference between poor and average versus excellent student when we are looking at the first two groups of students. As excellent student would probably plagiarize more than an average or a poor student. And this result is was something that I expected, that we are expected, because we see that the excellent students are more committed to their work and they will do the bigger effort to make their essays. But the colleagues from the state says that this is very surprising for them because they have results also in some other European countries of Western democracy, that the better students plagiarize more because they want to have a better essays. They are very competitive. They have more courses enrolled. They do not have enough time to finish all their tasks. So it's very depending of the cultural environment. In our country, the better students will do the bigger effort. And also in a richer country, there is a situation that better students plagiarize more. When we are looking at the choice of the article, depending of availability of the source, it became obviously that electronic format became more and more popular through years. At the first year of investigation in the first group, only 36% of the students chose the electronic version of the text. And in the last, and it was in year 2005, 83% of them choose the electronic version. And maybe this is the reason that there is no difference between electronic and hard copy version, because the third year actually did not plagiarize because of the clear warning on punishment. So the rate of choosing the electronic version were smaller in the first 2 years, so there were no difference. We are now sure that the electronic versions will be plagiarized more than hard copy. And now it's the situation that nobody actually will choose the hard copy version of an article as a source article. Also, over the year, more students use more complex subjects of their articles. This is something that is surprisingly, because this essay was mandatory and it was not especially graded for the course, and we expect students to choose the easy way, to choose the less complex subjects, but they actually choose over the year more complex. Or the subject, this was the same articles through 3 years, excuse me, the same articles during 3 years, so we hope somehow, because it was the articles based on medical informatics issue, we find out that actually students become more familiar with the subjects, and this border between more and less complex is diminished. This is the interesting finding. Considering the length of the student essays pronounced as the number of words. At the first year, the average number of words was 155. And then the second year, with a clear warning on plagiarism, plagiarize equally, but they choose to put the more words in their essays. And it was over 550, the average number of words. And the last group of students were quite angry on us, and the average, they were not plagiarized, but the average student essay was significantly shorter. They use like 400 years just to write down their minds. And it is very also important when the teachers are evaluating student essays. Maybe the length is not important, because in essays that are bigger than or longer than the others, maybe can contain the plagiarized text to fulfill those words. The other part of investigation was research on attitudes towards plagiarism. At first we realized that students plagiarized, and most of them, more than half, seriously plagiarized. And now we are seeing what are their attitudes. This investigation was based on 6 imaginary but possible scenarios of misconduct. I have to swear that all people are imaginary inside all those stories, and nobody can recognize itself. And then each story was analyzed by students with a questionnaire with 6 multiple choice questions. There are same for all scenario. After answering this questionnaire, we read an epilogue to the scenario that reverse the situation or aggravating it, the circumstances or the situation in the scenario. And then each scenario had a 7th logical question, which was entering by yes or no, and it was different from each scenario. That was a questionnaire. I don't know if you see it. We were asking the students if they find this procedure or behavior appropriate or wrong, justified or unjustified. Should the perpetrator be penalized? No. If yes, how? And have you ever done anything similar to the describing act? Would you ever do anything similar? And do you have any knowledge if such similar acts were taking place in reality around you? And the first scenario was about self-plagiarism. Self-plagiarism is another issue, also very important, because students are oftenly give their essays through the years and they do not find it offensive. We will see. The scenario, the story was about the 6th study year student D, who's copied his student essay already submitted 3 years before, and he passed the exam based on this essay. Then the student answers all those questions, and the epilogue was that a few years later D becomes a scientist, and he submitted a paper that is already published for publishing. He published that and applies for a higher academic position and become an assistant professor. And then we ask them, do you think this is if this is right behavior? The second scenario was the plagiarism with author's consent. When in the scenarios, the student M asks her colleagues from a senior study year for an essay for the same course, copied it and submitted as own. And the friend who actually gave the essays knew that. After the answering questions, we gave the epilogue that the 3rd student's own noticed fraud and reported to the instructor, actually, or the faculty. Actually, she was the whistleblower. Do you think that the whistleblower do the right thing? 3rd scenario was the scenario of plagiarism without author's consent. Jay stole her roommate's essays, and which was graded A, and submitted as own without knowledge of the original author. The epilogue was that the original author decided to publish essay as a student paper in a scientific journal, and then the perpetrator begged her not to do that because plagiarism would be relieved, and so he begged her not to publish this paper. The seventh question was, if you were the original author, would you publish the essay anyway and endanger your colleague student? The other thing is something that when I started to teach and come to the higher academic, let's say, society or circles, I saw that there is a plagiarism case even in those among distinguished members of academic society. And the scenario is that Professor PH copied his student thesis in his book without acknowledging the source or even cite his student. The epilogue was that a student actually submitted his thesis as a scientific paper, but journal editor noticed the similarities with professor book, accused student for plagiarism, reject manuscript, and informed the wider scientific community that the young student M is a plagiarist and a perpetrator of plagiarism. The seventh question was, if you were the PhD professor, would you then admit that you plagiarized in your book and that your student is actually the real author of the texts? This is the fourth one, is cheating on exam, when according to scenario, M did not study, but he took the exam, and during the exam he switched the test with his colleague, who replies all the questions that M didn't know, and M then passed the exam. The epilogue was that the instructor noticed that the test switch, but because he wants to avoid any other explanation, he just ignored that and act as if nothing happens. So the question is, do you think that the instructor did the right thing? And at the end, it was a scenario of issuing a false medical report, when the doctor issued the medical report but do not examine actually his patient, because the patient is his good friend, so he supposed that he is in a good health, and to spare him for another visit to hospital, he just write the finding that patient is okay. But the family physician in the epilogue copies the medical report to the medical file, explaining how important this medical finding is for the course of minor surgery that patient were undergoing. The second question is, if you were the patient, would you tell your family physician that your friend were not actually examining you? Let's see the answers. Appropriateness of an act in 6 different scenarios is now pointed as a percentage of student answered that is appropriate or wrong. And it is very considered that 65% of students think that self-plagiarism is an appropriate thing to do. Which is very worrying is that 1/4 of students, 25% of them, thinks that cheating on the exam is appropriate. And this is something that actually it's self-reported attitudes. Also, appropriate thing was plagiarism without author consent among 1/5 or around 20% of the students. So, if somebody lets you the essays, you can plagiarize it. It's okay because the author knows. The other thing is just justifiability, because the students think that some acts are wrong, but under the special circumstances they can be accepted. So you see the high percentage of acceptance under some special circumstances of all those acts. Self-plagiarism, 75% of students think that self-plagiarism is justified. Half of them think that plagiarism for another student who knows that is justified. Cheating on exam, because I did not learn, I did not study, but I don't have time, I have another things to do, I have more courses, then I'm allowed to cheat on the exam. So this is a kind of Machiavellism or hypocrisy between the students, because they know that this is wrong, but they find the justified reason to do that. Punishment. Do the perpetrator deserve punishment? For self-plagiarism, 80% of students says no. You see the percentages of students who actually think that the perpetrators should be punished is the highest, or on just verbal warning, or take the benefit that is gained by this act away. Expel from the university or serious punishment for this serious misconduct is not mentioned. Actually, the students don't think that anyone should be expelled from a university or from academic community because of all these things. Students who have not done anything similar, because we have students who self-declare that they are not done anything similar, and students who actually done something similar. Why they did not do that? Actually, the most of the reason is because they did not have the opportunity. But 10% of them actually would cheat on the exam, but they are afraid of punishment. And this is the rate of the student who think that those acts are unacceptable. For self-plagiarism, just 7%. Those are the students who actually did not such things. When we see the group of students who actually done already something similar to the described scenario, most of them did it because they have a good reason to do that, and 1/5 of them think that they committed already self-plagiarism in the second year of their study, but they thought it was not wrong. Something that is very interesting to see, because if students think that they have a good reason to do something, they actually would do that. Would you ever do anything similar to this scenario? The most of them will do that exceptionally in a need. So if you have a student in need, he will do or she will do all those things. Awareness of similar or such event in the reality was high, because we find it high that people actually, half of them see or witnessed self-plagiarism, a third of them plagiarism with author's consent or without author consent, and almost more than a third of them witnessed the cheating on the exam. And now we get to the 7th question, which is always was interesting, because when students were having these questionnaires, when I read them the epilogue, they all said, "Oh my God, the situation became more complicated," and they were very inconsistent with the other with those letters. Let's say about self-plagiarism. Self-plagiarism was appropriate when done by student in 65% of students, but when done by an instructor, it was inappropriate 76% of them thought it is inappropriate to when the instructor do that, and the students, they can. Punishment, no. Now, nobody should be punished. Actually, just 16% of students say that some punished should be for the self-plagiarist. Plagiarism with author's consent. When the plagiarism done by students, they recognize it. The most of them recognize it as inappropriate, but just something less than half of them thinks that. About half of them thinks that the student have to be punished. But when there is an issue about whistleblower, the majority of students think that whistleblower should hang. The plagiarism without author's consent, when you actually steal from your colleague's computer, is inappropriate among the majority of students. But when we ask them, would you publish the essay if you are the original author, and the essay and your essay can give you some credits to your academic success, the half of them would publish the essay. But they all judge the whistleblower. When plagiarism by the superior is done, it is considered to be inappropriate, but what is the interesting, the more than half students in our groups thought that on the exam, okay, students find it inappropriate, more than half of them, just half of them think that they should be punished, but half of them, nearly half of them thinks that the instructor ignoring the cheating was doing the good thing. And this is something that I didn't expect, because this is the root of this behavior, I think, comes from this group, these feelings for associated with group. I'm the students and I'm against faculty, and they are not my friends and teachers, they are enemies on the exam, and it is not true, and this attitude should be changed. When issuing is a false medical report, 61% of them, when the situation is become serious, will admit that even though his friends did not make the proper exam. But a quarter of them thinks that the doctor should not be punished for writing the false medical report. They will be a doctors for 4 years from this moment. So when we talk about their attitudes, we have to be aware what students are really thinking. It is very interesting that on the end of the course, after the exam, they took a small questionnaire with the general attitudes toward research and academic integrity. It was all anonymous, as all the questionnaires before, and it was 6 questions, and it was completed after their past exam, so they did not need to be afraid or stated something because of because they thought that they will have some consequences because of their attitude. First question was were you as a student introduced to the principles of research and academic integrity? We know that there is not a course on the first year of their study that actually teach them academic integrity, warn them on plagiarism, teach them how to write properly. But more than half of them thinks that they were introduced academic integrity. Because it is something that we all know, but it is not, obviously. Do you consider intellectual property equal to other forms of the property, like your books, like your purse, like your MP3 players or other things? 68% of them said that they consider it equally, but they will steal it from the colleague's computer. So The other question is, should the school have clearly articulated rules against plagiarism included in the official documents together with the penalty and very strict explanation? One-fifth of them think, about 20% think that it is not important, but the majority think that it is important. Do you think that scientist has to be completely honest in her on his work irrespective of any circumstances? And 76% of them said yes. This is a declarative attitude, but you saw the results before when they said that they would actually do all those things under the special circumstances. Is it permissible in research to ignore some individual results that are not very important or that not correspond to the something that you expect? And also 20% of them think that it is permissible and that it is okay, but they are still students, they are not involved in a scientific work, so the 65% of them said no. This is this general perspective. And we asked them, is it true that once a cheater, always a cheater, or at least when there is an opportunity? Half of them thinks no, but under the circumstances we saw that they will do that. Results or general attitudes are mainly socially desirable because when you are reading some magazines or paper and you are taking those psychological tests, you always circle the answers which is the best. You know that nobody will evaluate it according to this test, but it is nice to read the solution that you are a very nice person, that you are very kind, loving, warm and everything. It is similar in this questionnaire, but we somehow try to evaluate those answers against their real acts and against those answers in scenario cases. There were no differences gave between men and women or between student samples first, second and third year of investigation. And the plagiarism can be considered very similar to the parking. If you have a sign, very nice to see, to told you, any driver can recognize it, that the parking is forbidden. You will probably find a car, this is my hometown, and this is not a very exclusive exception, you will probably find the car in between. And then what can we do? We can abbreviating the warning. So if you park here, it's forbidden to park your car, but if you park, it will be removed on your own cost and it is very expensive, but people will take the chance to park despite of this sign. What is the solution actually? You have a sign, it is forbidden to park, your car will be removed if you park, but there are very strong reason why they are not parked here, because of the metal obstacles. So the clear warning or punishment and the clear warning of efficient way to detect plagiarism will probably deter somebody to plagiarize, or it will deter people to park here. And after they put those things on the road, nobody parks here anymore. It is in the heart center of town. What is the facts that we have to be aware that plagiarism present among students in a high rate, and students will do that if they have the opportunity. And this significant reduction be only by awareness. Just teaching and clear warning is not enough. The teaching, I mean, just explaining. The teaching have to be education through the whole education process. Some attitudes among our students are worrisome, and I think it is a universal attitude. This attitude seeks for a promotion of the principles of academic integrity among students during their whole education. Also, the inconsistency in a student's attitudes indicates the lack of knowledge, and despite this, that we can talk about hypocrisy or Machiavellism, that they are not actually recognize some of the acts as wrong. And when you ask them just a general attitude, they are socially desirable and worthless and in contradiction with their behavior. So if somebody made a survey in the university, which are published, that their students have great a general attitude against plagiarism, it should be a research furthermore to find out what their behavior actually is. Academic achievement will influence the plagiarism only if they were not warned strictly about subsequent computer check procedure or penalty. And faculty, the teachers, awareness of inappropriate attitudes of students toward academic misconduct this is a very strong guideline to promoting the academic integrity and the education and promoting the highest standard of academics in the environment. These are the results from the Croatia, and as you know, in Europe there are many countries, and Europe is really a choice of diversity. We have countries that are post-communist countries, that are countries that are countries of Western democracy, the richer, the poorer. Also, there are processes in European community, let's say in large Europe, not only the European community, but also the other countries, that students need to be part of the enlarged Europe, that interchange, and that will be our future. And the Bologna process, I don't know if you're aware of this, strongly emphasized the mobility and the standardization of the study levels in between the university and whole Europe. The thing that is very important is a language issue. If you are studying in English or in England or in in UK or in United States, you will find a lot of sources on the internet, and some plagiarism detection tools are only can be used in English language, the most of them. And so the people that are studying different languages, and as it is in my country and your country actually, they can pass below the radar. But there are also efficient tools for the different languages. But unfortunately, there is no efficient tools for translingual plagiarism. If you translate it, you will probably not be caught. But this is the thing that we have to really think about it. Is it justified? What purpose it is just to translate something or to write down other people's thoughts? Make effort to be a better experts, to be a better students, and to be a better experts today. Also, the cultural, social, and political environment are very important. In post-communist country, after the 50 years of communism and dictatorship in my country or in many other countries in Europe, when the situation is even worse, leave the consequences. The people do not think that plagiarism is something that should be bothered with, or it is not an offensive act. There are several explanations, but I like this one the most because the psychology students will probably understand me better. They transfer their super ego to the authority. I'm not the guilty, they do that also. And I can do that if my superior do that things. We have very big affairs with the plagiarism in our academic community. We have even one PhD retracted from my university. The guy was actually the principal of the big university hospital, and he rewrote his master thesis and defended it as a PhD thesis. And he became an assistant professor. And after that, somebody on the university saw not the similarity, it was equal. Actually, the pages were transferred. Not even the typewriter errors were corrected from the master thesis to PhD thesis. And he actually sued the university, and there was a court process when he said, I'm the principal of the hospital, how can you put my PhD thesis on a question? But at the end, which make us very proud, the university retracted his PhD thesis. Actually, he became old in the meanwhile and went to the retirement. But this is the good beginning. Also, the other countries like China, like Eastern Europe, have these problems when there is a very demanding environment for publishing, for studying. So, and the plagiarism is not considered to be an offense. This is the interesting, also the one interesting survey or research that have a very similar scenario. There were 3 guys. One gave to his colleague his work to copy. The colleague copied, and the third one was whistleblower who actually reported. The research was done in Russia, Israel, Netherlands, and Holland, and the US. And the result was that the scientists need to choose good, bad, and evil guy. And people from Russia and from Israel said that the best one is the one who actually gave his work to the other. Then this one who copied, and the worst evil one was the one who actually whistleblowed. But in Holland and the United States, the result was completely different. The good one was the whistleblower. It's also a declarative state, of course. The bad one was the guy who copied, and the evil one was the one actually who gave his work for copying. So it is very important to understand the environment of the university and the scientists and promote the highest academic standards. What can be done in between universities, faculties, and students also? First, the cooperation between universities needs to be emphasized and needs to be operatively put on the higher level. And I'm very glad because working and talking with Ruben here on your university, produced an idea that we actually submitted a project in the FP7 program for European Union. It does not pass, but we didn't get any financial support, but this is a core for cooperation, for developing of joint standards of study, and also the scientific approach in collaborative projects. That can be done when teachers, faculty come together and submit projects to the European Union, because this issue is very important. Also, it is important to use and develop ICT technology to deter students and the scientists from plagiarism, and continuous education on all levels, from the primary, from the kindergarten, where when children make their draws, it couldn't be acceptable that mothers do that for them. So in elementary school also, the highest academic standards need to be promoting all the time, and education of all levels. And those persons, when they enroll university, they will have this acceptance not to plagiarize, not to cheat from their childhood. Also, the attitudes needs to be influencing with continuous education and promoting of integrity. Thank you very much for your attention. This is the picture of my hometown. This is not the parking zone, this is the walking zone. No parks can even go to this street. And this is the clear winter morning. So thank you very much.